All right, so I'm going to move over. All right, so that's my first position. Right in there. Now I'll know by my second position if everything is set up right, because if it's not, it's not going to go to my second hole. Second hole. Oh, this way. The wrong way. Yeah, I forgot to tell you, this goes counterclockwise rotation. Now, the process I use to set my DRO up doesn't necessarily mean your DRO will be exactly the same, but generally they're similar. Let's do one more. So the only thing I got to change is my x-axis, because these are on the same axis. All right, so we're good. This is going to line up fine, and I would know right away if there was a problem. So I'm going to move the camera a little bit so I can work in here, and I'm going to chamfer each one of these holes except this one. And the reason I'm going to do that is if these aren't perfectly round, I'll make this chamfer right around the same size as the drill, or a little bit bigger than the drill I'm going to drill through here, so it centers up to where I want the hole to be. Okay? All right, we'll be back. All right, let's set up a depth on this. We'll just touch it and see what it looks like. Alright, so that's just a little bigger than 9/16. So I'm going to set a stop. I can't use my adjustable stops. Not enough room left from where the position is. That's all right. Drop it down and I'll just come up and touch it. Good enough? All right, we'll go to the next one. Alright, I'll complete this up and I'll bring you back. Okay, my last hole. Alright, I'm going to set up for the drill and I'll bring you back. Alright, I got a 35/64 drill in here. I got it into a number 2 tapered drill R8 collet holder or R8 holder, and that's just one size under 9/16, so we'll ream it 9/16. Make sure our parallels are not anywhere near our holes. We got plenty of room here so we don't hit the vise. Let's roll. Alright, I'll bring you back when I get to the last hole. And the last hole. Alright, I'm going to switch over to the reamer. Alright, we're all set up with the reamer. And remember, we don't need any oil on this because it's cast iron. I'm going to slow that down a little bit. Advance to the next hole. Off the table. Advance to the next hole. tool. Always lock the table. Next hole. Alright, while I have this set up in the machine, I'm going to pull that helicoil out of there. And it's only helicoiled halfway, and I want a bolt to come in from both ways. I'm going to pull it out, line up my helicoil tap using my spring center, and I'm going to tap the rest of that hole and then put 2 helicoils in, one from each side. Okay? I'll set up for that. And there's the helicoil. Alright. So now I'm going to go look, see if I have a 7/16 20 helicoil on top. I believe I do, but if I don't, I can borrow one or get one. Alright, so back again. I didn't want to leave this set up in the Bridgeport just sitting there, so I decided last night to make a whole bunch of plugs in order to plug these holes that I drilled. I put them in with just under about 1/1000 press fit. They actually went in really nice, and they're Loctited in. Okay, so they sat overnight. Now they're not going to spin or anything like that. There's no need for like a Dutchman in here or something like that to keep them from spinning. It's just to keep the bolts square to the back face of the axle housing. Okay, and like I said, if this doesn't work, if something breaks out, I will get a piece of Durabar long enough to do 2 of these, and I will machine 2 new ones right from scratch. It's really not that complicated, although it's not going to be cheap to get a piece of Durabar this size and enough to do 2 pieces. This hole over here, where the 7/16 20 threads were in the front side, I'll call this the front side because this goes up against the axle, they're stripped. You can tell that at one point in time every one of these holes had a bolt. If you look at the diagram from Ford, it doesn't show a front bolt, but it shows the rear bolt, and it's a short one. It's about 3/4 of an inch long. So I am going to bolt them from both sides. A 29/64 drill will not fit in here. which is the tap drill for a 7/16 STI tap, a helicoil tap. So those will be in a couple of days. So instead of just letting it sit there, I figured I'll take them out, make these, press them all in, and we can move on. So from this side, it looks really, really nice. They went in really nice. They're perfectly flush. Take a razor blade, you can't feel anything on there. So when I go to drill it, I'm going to set it up exactly the same way. I'll put the 5 holes in here. I'll come through here with the tap drill and send a helicoil tap down through there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to set this up in the lathe, and I'm going to turn this face, and I'm going to take about 10 thousandths off of it. I wish I could have moved these holes over a little bit, and if you look at this one right here, it's got a little tiny gap. Looks like it could have went over that way, but when I originally assessed it, most of them are one this way. You can see where that one's just one a little bit here. There's another one that's got a little tiny gap too. So I chose to fix them in the direction that most of them were one, not just one that was different or one the opposite way. So that's why I chose to do that. It would have been nice. These holes were drilled originally off center of these lugs, which, I mean, that kind of stuff happens all the time in manufacturing. So by taking 10 thousandths off, it's going to make these all flush, and I plan on putting a 10 thousandths steel shim on here. I don't really think it matters, because the only thing it's going to do is move this plate 10 thousandths closer to the other direction. So it's going to move the shoes back just a little bit, and the rear plate, the true backing plate, because they call this a backing plate because this is what holds the shoes, but the plate that's on the back, which is more like a cover, there is plenty of room between the drum and that cover. So it would move the drum back a little bit, it would move the shoes back a little bit, but I still don't think that it would interfere with that rear dust cover assembly. So I might line it up and try it, put a couple bolts in there, just line it up and make sure there's nothing in the way. And if there isn't, just let it go. But if there is, I have 10 thousandths sheet stock here, shim stock, that I can make a shim for. And I could do it with a full circle shim, kind of like this gasket. They sell these. This is for the back. And they sell the steel ones for the back, because this sets your axle end play. I might just buy a 10 thousandths. I think it's a whole shim kit. It's like 30 bucks. Comes with a pack, like 10,000 shims. I might just buy a pack of those and use them out front. It doesn't matter if it has these cutouts. That was just a stave cast iron, like I said before. If I were to make it, I'll make it completely round, because it doesn't make any difference at all. There's nothing in the way over here at all. So, or I could machine it out of a piece of steel, for that matter. It would depend on what was the cheapest way to do it at the time. I don't have anything this big, but I'm sure I could go to the scrapyard and find something. There's a whole bunch of chunks of 3, 4, 5, 6 inch unknown steel, about anywhere from 6 to 12 inches long, that you can pick up real reasonable for scrap weight. So I'm going to set this up in the 4-jaw. I'm going to indicate off of this. This isn't perfectly round, but I really don't care. I'm just going to split the difference, because all I want to do is get in here close enough to be able to machine about 10 thousandths off. I'm not trying to turn this OD. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm just going to come in as tight as I can, maybe even go into that a little bit, so that there's a little bit of a radius in here. I take a little bit of that out, and there is plenty of radius on the back of this plate, so when it goes on here, it shouldn't interfere. So So that's my plan. I'm going to bump it up tight into the 4-jaw, dial in off of this, and see how it comes out. Alright, next time you see me, I'll be at the lathe.